All right, aloha, and welcome to those of you who are watching this in the future. This is another collaborative conscious media work period, and we are here with Danny and with Ashley. And so for this meeting, we're going to go over some stuff related to Patreon. We had a meeting with Ashley a couple last week or the week before, and that was just kind of getting some ideas started on Patreon relative to like the offers within the tier. And so Ashley's gonna just kind of touch base with that, and we'll get some more brainstorming. And then also Danny's just gonna kind of be sitting in and adding their voice to the conversation, and also getting some ideas for some Patreon stuff too as well. So Ashley, go ahead. I'll pass it over to you, and you can just kind of let me know where you want to start off, or even
Okay.
if you want to just be able to like explain, maybe even practice explaining to me your Patreon as if I was like, someone who didn't know anything about it already. So
Put me on the spot. No, I'm just
but
kidding.
just start wherever you feel you want to
No,
focus first.
I was just sorry, I just took some screen shots of my Patreon stuff.
And have you created your Patreon yet? Like, have you created your profile on patreon.com?
Yes, I did the about me. I made like,
Okay, cool.
the pictures, the names for
Okay, cool.
everything.
Okay. Yeah, because I think until it's published, like even if you were to send me a link to it, I don't think I'd be able to see it.
Oh yeah, I just sent, there's one, and here comes the second one on Instagram. I just took
On
screenshots of me, and I sent them to you, so you can see everything. But basically, essentially, what I did is we talked about maybe combining like the lower ones, like the 3 to the 7, but I left the 3 because I just wanted like a small.
Yeah.
I just wanted a small one available, but I combined the 7 and the 13 together.
That makes sense.
Instead.
So it goes from 3 and then to 13 and then to 33. Okay.
Yes. And then I created the one in the middle. We talked about creating one between the 111 and the 3. So I created a 150. And before I had like a 30-minute whatever coaching call in the 33, but I shifted that over to 245 in the 150 just to kind of give more.
Okay.
In that, and I realized that wouldn't make sense to even just give one, because if I'm doing coaching outside of Patreon, like classically, usually there's like a discovery call where you get like essentially free one anyway. So that wouldn't really. I wanted to make it like fair across all the boards if I was doing coaching on Patreon or just on my website, whatever. So that's why I did the 2 45-minute ones, and then let's see, and then I'm like looking into doing things like online workshops or online courses. So in the upper level ones, I included like discounts for those aspects as well.
Okay, cool. All right. Where do you feel like, I mean, how close are you to like releasing it publicly? Where do you feel you need to make some additional adjustments?
I'm pretty happy because these are my adjustments.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Since we talked, so I feel pretty happy.
And was the Discord server something that you were still looking to start off with, or is that something that might come in later?
Yes, I do have that still in there. I know I wrote down like a few questions for Discord. I had one question for Patreon. For the only thing that I haven't done for that is the intro video, and it says like, I thought you'd be able just to like upload a video, but it looks like it wants you to drop a link. Do you just use an unlisted YouTube video link for that?
Yeah, that works fine. Yeah, I'm not sure if maybe there's the option to upload a video right to Patreon. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, unlisted YouTube link is fine.
Okay.
So yeah. I mean, if anything, like you could even have it as like a public video on your YouTube as well. So you could,
yeah,
that way, so people are still going to discover it either way. Yeah.
that.
Okay.
I
And then,
did. Oh, go
go
ahead.
ahead. Oh, I was just gonna say
Yeah.
with Patreon, one of the things that's within the option is to either have your Patreons charged at the first of each month, or they're charged up front. So I'm
Mhm.
sure you probably saw that. That's going to be something to kind of decide upon.
Mhm.
The only thing with that is that it's like a permanent decision. Once you like change it to charge up front, you can't change it back.
Okay.
And so the thing with that is that it gets a little bit tricky if, you know, someone's signing up later in the month and then they sign up, you know, 2 days before the first, and then they're getting charged and then they get charged again a day later, sort of thing. So like
Okay.
that's where like again with my Patreon, with our Patreon, I just have it set up where it's only on the first of each month. And then again, you know,
Mhm.
like I'm not really like super strict on the Patreon anyways. So I mean, that way, you know, people are at least getting their foot in the door. And I think of the Patreon as being more kind of like an energetic signature in a sense, where
Mhm.
it's like, okay, you know, they're interested in stuff like that. And then again, like they might have like they could have the entire month until they get charged and everything like that, but obviously if they enjoy it they'll stick around.
Mhm.
With yours, that may be something that you kind of want to decide, or at least like maybe it's like maybe like the like if you're offering like the so like the one-on-one call, like that is only available at the higher level now for like the
Let's
one
see.
on, or is there like a sample call? Is that still in there?
The
Uh,
that's in the 150, the
that's in the
245-minute
150.
coaching calls, but those higher level ones haven't changed, where it's the one-on-one, one a month for the 333, and then every single week for the highest one.
Yeah, yeah. Hmm. Yeah, I'm just wondering with yours where like it might be something where like those people who sign up, like if they're doing the higher ones, if they're not, if they're signing up like earlier at the month or something, you might even just want to direct message them and just be like, hey, like you can send like partial payment, since your first payment won't be until the first of each month, just through like a single like PayPal contribution. Otherwise it's like, you know, you almost communicate to them that it's like you don't actually get that until your first contribution's gone through, but you still get access to the Discord server and you still get access to exclusive
Everything
content.
else.
But until that payment's gone through,
Okay.
then we do the coaching calls type thing. So if anything, you know, like I think yeah, making sure that you kind of have like a scheduling process for booking in your calls, so that like, you know, people are kind of like booking in the calls starting at the first of each month, and then you're kind of filling it in, and so it's like, you know, first come first serve type thing.
Yeah,
um
because
yeah.
yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, and then another thing that you might want to do within the Patreon is like literally have like a certain amount of people that can sign up for each one.
Mhm.
Say for example, like for the $1,000 one, like maybe for that
Mhm.
one, maybe there's only 3 people, like there's only three
Gotcha.
spots available for that. It creates a little
Mhm.
bit of exclusivity, and again, that just makes it more manageable for you as
Mhm.
well. Again, like that, you know, that's not a it's not a bad problem to have if you have more people signed up for that, but at the same time, just
Mhm.
making sure that, you know, you're
Not
just
overwhelmed.
not overwhelming yourself. Exactly, right? Because I mean, like as it is right now, do you feel like this is manageable for you, like with the just kind of the prospect of like how you'd be interacting with people here, in
Yeah.
terms of having like multiple coaching calls? So I mean, like if you're, you know, it like after like a month, if you got people signed up, like then this basically
Mhm.
means that depending on what level they're signed up with, that you're going to be doing at least like, you know, like 10 coaching calls a week, give or
Mhm.
take, theoretically. And like, does that feel
Mhm.
okay for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool,
Because
cool.
that's gonna. I know this is like, even though I have other things to offer, this is like the main modality that I want to focus on.
That's what you're
And
passionate about doing. You like doing the one-on-one stuff. So
or just like, yeah, the coaching in general.
yeah,
Specifically.
yeah. Okay, okay, cool. Well, it looks like, yeah, it looks like you got things in place. And did you set up the Discord server already?
Yeah, I did set it up, and I haven't like created like the different
The
like
roles
subgroups
and
or
yeah, the channels.
the
Yeah.
categories. Yeah, I had a question. What is like? I just didn't really understand what the where did I put that? What is the voice chat things on
E-
the there?
Yeah, no, it's basically just like you join that, and then anybody else in there you can do voice communication with. So I
Hmm.
mean that could be something that's relative for your community. Like we have that in ours, we just don't really utilize it that much because
Okay,
again
that's
we
what I
kind
was,
of
yeah.
keep our stuff centralized to like our broadcast, and we use Zoom now. If anything, like
Hmm.
like the voice chat actually does incorporate video. Um, but
Hmm.
again, like it's more just kind of like an additional bonus. Like people are welcome to use it, but people within our communities don't really get into the habit of it. Maybe it will in the
Hmm.
future, but right now it's just it's there, but it's not really a priority. So
I'm wondering
yeah.
if that would like, do you think that would be fair to have and to keep because I'm offering at these higher levels, like the Voxer, like
I
type
would
of coaching?
I would think it would almost be better to not have it
Okay, that's what I was
for
kind of.
two reasons. Like if like and again, I know we're just talking here, and I want to be able to just kind of like do some brainstorming with Danny too to kind of like talk about how a Patreon community could look for her. But this
Hmm.
would still apply because one of the things when you're creating like a community is that you also want to be able to make sure that like you're keeping an eye on everything that's happening. Like it's not like you're like trying to like babysit people, but at the same time you are responsible for the space. So like rather than just being like, oh, you guys can join the voice chat. And then lo and behold, two people spend like 2 hours in the voice chat by themselves. But then, there might be some stuff that gets said. And then who knows? Like, it's not that like you're just like, you don't trust people, but like
Hmm.
for the safety of the space, you don't want to just like leave it unmonitored type thing. You
Hmm.
don't want to just like let people just kind of have like too much liberty. But that's again where also when you're creating your Discord, to make sure that you have those guidelines in place, because those guidelines are basically going to say like, hey, like like here's the behavior that's expected, respecting each other, keeping on topic, keeping on context, and things like that. But yeah, just making sure that even within the chat itself, that it stays very intentional.
Hmm.
And then that's where again making sure that you have like that first group of people in who are really in alignment with what you're creating is going to help welcome in that next circle, because last thing you need is suddenly you and this is what I had to deal with in a past version of my Discord when I was kind of experimenting with it, when I just kind of like opened it up and just opened it up to everyone. It was exciting for a little bit, but then it quickly kind of just like lost its stability. And there was kind of like this feeling where it was like, oh, like if I like go to the grocery store and come back, am I going to open up the Discord channel and see like like a bunch of messages that are just completely off topic and just kind of like
Hmm.
running rampant type thing. So like making sure that the Discord is going to be something where everyone's in alignment with the guidelines, they're following your lead, the topics are very specific. And yeah,
Hmm.
like understanding that the Discord itself is a sacred space, and then your leadership will help anchor that in as well. So yeah, to answer your question, I would say if it's appropriate in the future, you could always open up a voice channel. That could even be something that could even be like like a certain time of the month where like if you open up the voice channel when you're in it. But at the same time, like you could theoretically accomplish the exact same thing just by using Zoom too.
Hmm.
So it's basically kind of yeah, it's not really essential to be able to have a voice chat for what you're doing. But yeah. And what if you want to? I would be happy if you want to be able to. We can do this later. You can send me an invite for your Discord. And
Hmm.
then if anything, like what you could do is like you could set me like as a moderator, like even just for temporary, and then like I could even just kind of like help like set things up for you and stuff like that, and then just kind of like get it to a place and then just like pass it back over to you type thing, just to be able to make sure it's ready to go. So
Yeah,
and I
this
can
is.
yeah, and I can do that again, even for people listening in the future. That's something I'm more than happy to help with, because it's not super complicated, but just being able to kind of like set things in order, and then and then you just kind of run the show from
Mhm.
there. So yeah. So do you feel like you're pretty close to starting to make like a public announcement about the Patreon?
Mhm.
Yeah. Is that like,
Yeah.
do you got like kind of a, is that going to be like this week, next week, do you think?
What's today? I could probably do it. Blah, blah, blah. Maybe by the end of this week. It's just I realized that like with some stuff on my Patreon, especially with the yoga nidras and guided meditation and like ritual requests, that would also involve like processes on my website as well. So I'm having to build that up as well, and it's taking longer than I thought it would.
Okay. Yeah. And stuff on the website, like it's possible to launch the Patreon even with stuff on your website still kind of not being fully at completion as well. So,
Okay.
yeah, I wouldn't, yeah, there's kind of like this motto where you kind of have to get to the point where it's like good enough, move on type thing.
Yeah, I know.
That's something I have to tell myself too. But yeah, no, I think it's good because again, you want to be able to present your image, present your brand. So yeah, whatever you feel is doing that enough. And then what you might want to do is start sending some like one-to-one kind of invites related to the Patreon as well. Yeah, or
specific people.
If you feel like there are people that you've already gotten in touch with who have already, you know, people you've been messaging back and forth, just be like, hey, you know, like I've really enjoyed just being able to talk with you some more. You know, like I've started a Patreon. So if you're looking to be able to connect further and work further together, definitely check it out and let me know if you have any questions. Right. Because yeah, you want to be able to kind of like build that community space with people who are going to be people that are, you know, going to be people that you kind of want to be able to work with. And again, you know, at the same time, like, I think even within your write-up for the Patreon, just make sure that it's clear that, you know, like ultimately it comes down to your decision. Just because they're paying you money doesn't mean they own you. So like if you feel, you know, from the place of your discernment, you can decide if this person is going to be a good fit. And if not, it's not like you're like, hey, you know, like you're shaming them, but it's like, you know, like, hey, like, you know, like I think there's somebody else out there that would be a better match for you. And thank you for, you know, your consideration. And I look forward to, you know, you can still support and engage this way or whatever. But yeah, just making sure that you're really like kind of, you know, understanding that this is like you just really deciding who it is that you're going to work with and really just own that and everything like that.
Yeah.
So, because that sets the vibration.
I definitely saw that difference in between like whether you were doing like a Patreon where seemingly like anyone could sign up with the coaching as opposed to a website, or kind of like doing funnels and Facebook ads where you do the discovery call and you would discover whether you're like a good fit. So I noticed that there's that difference there, because I definitely do have a select, you know, target group that I want to work with, in that people are ready and motivated and already kind of like started some baby steps that are active in their healing. Like, so yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Because like the last thing you want is for, you know, you really have to check in with yourself when you're doing this stuff, because like, and this was an experience that I had when I was doing coaching where, you know, there was a period where like I really enjoyed it, but then it got to a point where like, you know, like heavier stuff was coming up and I'm just like, like, am I equipped to handle this? Like, am I a little bit, you know, is this a little bit outside of my expertise? So you really need to know like what you're capable of offering, and not shy away from being able to say like, hey, you know, like this is my limit. And I'm sorry, but if there's like stuff that comes up in the coaching call that's a little bit beyond your limit, don't be afraid to just communicate that. And then just, you know, make sure that you're setting that boundary, because you're doing them a favor as well. And
absolutely. Yeah.
Making sure that, you're not like kind of like showing up with like a bit of that anxiety going into a call or anything like that. So yeah.
I totally agree. My school where I was taught is like really big on that, not going past boundary, and just creating a hub of resources to be able to refer out if possible.
It's
a little different because it's online, but at least having some type of like, I don't know, maybe like mental health resources for people.
And I think just making sure that even within your Patreon, and there might be something to go back and add some detail to, where it's like when people work with you, what can they expect to get out of it? You know, like what do they become? What do they activate more of, so to speak, just to make sure that, people aren't coming to you to literally use you as like a dumping ground for all their, you know, psychological trauma and things like that. And not to say that they, you know, like it's great that some people can do that, but at the same time, like, is that your responsibility? Not necessarily, but hey, here's where I can meet you, you know? So making sure that people are really clear on what it is that you're offering them.
I think I'll just have to just find my specific boundary for that, because part of I have it within my
my website and my Patreon that part of my piece is about, you know, emotional regulation and trauma education. Obviously, I'm not a certified therapist or anything, but my background in schooling and teachings is a lot from like the neuroscience of trauma and how to heal the nervous system and things like that. So it'll dabble, but it won't. I'll have to be able to establish if and when it goes past a certain point.
Yeah, you'll know that, and I think that will just be part of the learning experience. So yeah. Okay, cool, sweet. Well, it sounds like you're in a good position to get things rolling out, and then you know, like even just kind of making sure that you're plugging it in some of your videos, or what you may want to even do is even create you could create like a special live broadcast where you could kind of invite people in to like watch you do like a presentation, and then that presentation is kind of like a soft lead in into your Patreon. So it's like, hey, if you guys have really enjoyed this, you know, like the recording for this is going to be available for like the next 24 hours, and then it's exclusively for the Patreon, and we'll be doing this again, you know, next month type thing. So that could be something where, again, you know, like you create a video on TikTok and it's like, hey everyone, I'm doing a special workshop coming up next Thursday, next Wednesday. It's free to join, come learn, come connect, come feel it out. And then within that, it's like, and you know, here's the Patreon. So I know that's like kind of like a traditional model that some people use.
No, I like that idea.
Yeah, like it doesn't have to feel gimmicky either, because essentially like your job is to provide people with awesome value, and then to be able to invite them to be able to connect further with the additional value that you're providing. So and the people will just be grateful that, you know, if they just got the free stuff, they got the free stuff, and then you still got plenty more videos coming out that's totally free and everything like that. So but I think it's good to give people kind of like that sample, and even through that, you know, maybe have like kind of like the one on like the Q&A type stuff or something like that. So and again, similar like when you're doing your lives, right? You know, like don't shy away from mentioning to people that like, you can join on the Patreon and everything like that. So
okay. I just have one more question. Can you, just so I can get it better in my brain, re-explain? So when you're talking about if I wanted to have my Patreon at the very beginning of the month, like the first or like some other day, and with the coaching and everything, like kind of ensuring that before I do the coaching that that is paid for or whatever and things. So if they were to do a PayPal, I'm figuring out the logistics of them doing a PayPal like donation, and then can you?
I'm thinking this out too. I feel like I would almost need to like be able to write it out just to be able to explain the process. What I'm thinking, just off the top of my head, is that if people sign up within like the first 15 days of the month, then they can begin coaching with you like immediately, as long as they put in like an additional like an upfront PayPal contribution to be sent to you directly, and then they can but maybe like that PayPal contribution is just for like maybe that's for like 50% or something. But then if people sign up for and again, this is more so just for the higher tiers. If people sign up for the higher tiers after the 15th of the month, then they have to wait until like the first of the next month to be able to like book that first call with you or something like that. So so if they sign up between the 1st and the 15th and they want to be able to get right into the coaching with you, then there is an expected upfront contribution through a single transfer through PayPal. And again, like that's where like you could even kind of I guess it would probably be like a different amount for each person, because if you figure you would do it by a percentage, if it's like, you know, already 33% of the month has already passed, then it would be like, you know, 66% of the total for what that package is, and then they can begin there. And then and I mean, theoretically you could do that throughout the entire month. But at the same time, you could also just have it where it's like literally like, creating that little bit of a push for them to sign up in the first half of the month. Otherwise, they have to wait until the next month.
Yeah, I think I might, what if I just put like a little asterisk note that for these 2 higher level ones, if you want, basically, if you want coaching for the entirety, actually, I mean, really, it's only the highest one because that's every week, whereas the second highest is just once a month. So that's going to be, that's only like, they would get it regardless if it was at any time of the month. So maybe just for the highest one, if you want the full 4 weeks of every week of coaching, then you have to sign up at the first of the month, or
pay the difference if they sign up
or pay the difference. I like that because otherwise I'm not the greatest at math. I don't want to be doing all these like percentages.
I know what you mean. So
would that be something you'd be able to put like right on here, like, or you'd have to pay the difference through, or just say that, not even say Venmo, PayPal? I'm just wondering Patreon's rules about citing other like pay sites, because some sites are kind of like,
I think that's okay.
It's okay.
I haven't seen anything from Patreon saying that would be an issue. But I think you're right. Just putting some sort of little asterisk note where it's like, it's like upon sign up, like I will contact you directly and to communicate like how you would like to start your program type thing, and within that, like that's, so you could even like not even specifically say like within the Patreon description about like the early sign up and stuff like that. I mean, it could be alluded to. Maybe that's something we can just kind of like sit on for now and just kind of like figure out. But I think, I think just a simple way of wording it is fine. And again, I think if people are already signing up for that higher level, they're going to be flexible. So, and they'll be understanding. So I think just a direct communication with them would probably be totally fine. So sounds good. Okay, cool. Sweet. So it sounds like you're in a good position to start rolling things out. And cool. Sweet. All right. I can Danny, if you want to jump in and stuff like that. Again, I know we haven't really like gotten just into like the basics of like the Patreon and everything. But we had just kind of like mentioned it and stuff. And so like, again, Danny, like even with your stuff, like as your stuff is like continuing to grow, there's definitely an opportunity for you to just start kind of like brainstorming, like what would like a private community space or private offering kind of like look like for you. So what I usually start off with when I'm thinking about the Patreon is just kind of like doing a little bit of brainstorming of like what value you would want to provide people with, like in addition to just like your regular TikTok. So Danny, if you want to just kind of like anything off the top of your head that you're thinking of.
Yeah, well, I'm taking an online intuitive healing class right now, and I've been offering some free healings to people for practice, and I've been getting really, really good feedback. So I feel pretty confident that, I don't want to charge people for my healings until I actually get my certification through the class, which I'm getting in about 2 weeks.
Cool.
And then I'll probably start with some pretty low rates, but I was thinking that through the Patreon, I could do a bi-weekly or a monthly raffle, and possibly for the people who are paying less, they would have like 1 ticket. People who are paying the middle would get 2 tickets. So that would, and then for that, they could get a free healing every 2 weeks or every month, depending on like how many people sign up for it. And then also I was thinking a discount for the readings as well for people who signed up for the Patreon. That's mostly what I have. I also do want to get at least a couple videos on YouTube, possibly before I start the Patreon. I don't necessarily need to, but I think that would be ideal. I need to get on making my content for YouTube. I've been putting it off for the past like month or so, but by growing on TikTok, it's like pretty much doubled in the past like week or two.
Your YouTube subscriber?
No, my
just your TikTok. Yeah, it has. You're over 6K right now, aren't you?
Yeah.
And and it was at 3K not too long ago. That's right.
Like a few days ago, I literally posted a video because I hit 170,000 likes, and now I'm already at like 195, like 2 days later.
That's good. That's good. So now is definitely a good opportunity to leverage that audience. Cause like, that's the thing with TikTok, man. Like it's a little bit unpredictable. The most important thing with TikTok is like the consistency. Like that's why you constantly, and again, even for Ashley and stuff like that, you know, like putting in at least like 4 or 5 videos a week is kind of like what's expected, because basically like what you're doing when you're doing that, you're telling TikTok that your content, that you're a creator worth their time. And so they keep pushing your content out. Like that's like, I've noticed that with mine, where it's like, wait a second, like I'm at like 15,000 people who like my account, but I'm like getting less views than what I had when I was at like 5,000. Right. So it's like, what's going on here? So it's a mix of literally just creating like quality content, but then also the consistency. So it's like, you're doing good now, but at the same time, it's just kind of like that could disappear. Like that momentum could theoretically disappear within like a month from now, because algorithms change and everything like that. Quick thing mentioning related to the Patreon, you're asking about doing like raffles. That is one thing that I'm familiar with in terms of Patreon, is that they actually don't want people to do raffles. Basically because in a way it's almost like a form of gambling. So basically, like, because of that, that means that you can't do any sort of like raffle type thing, like, because that was actually something that I had spoken to them about directly as well. But I think having like a discount for stuff is definitely good. Of course, like, even if you wanted to, like, you could literally have it where if they like sign up for the Patreon at like a higher level, you know, at like a $30 level a month, then they like get like a first healing session or a tarot session like up front for that, and then like additional ones can kind of come in at a discount as well. I think, yeah, like having the YouTube will be good. And then again, you know, it's kind of deciding if you were to be doing, if you're like building a community, like what would that look like, right? Would you like, even the idea of creating a Discord server, having private, you know, like private Zoom calls with community and things like that? What would you want to frame it around? Again, you know, like for the community, like it's really being able to know your demographic. And this is something that, you know, I've mentioned this to other creators specifically, but if you want, like, one way to actually kind of like leverage things, if you wanted to, you could have like your private community as being like specifically targeted towards like females, towards like that type of circle, if that's something that you feel called to do. Even though like it in a way it's like, oh, you're like cutting off like half of your potential demographic and stuff like that, but at the same time you're just like honoring the value of being able to create that sacred space for something that you feel called to do. So that, because that instantly kind of like increases the value. And especially if, again, like with your demographic, like do you like, even within the analytics and stuff like that, have you seen like how many of your demographic is like male or female? Like, I'm not sure if you've seen that.
70% of my following is female.
Yeah. So definitely the majority there. So I think, yeah, like that could be a thing where, again, you know, like they would be able to like look to you as kind of like a facilitator and a leader for being able to create this sacred space for feminine empowerment, of that nature. And again, I was literally talking to divine mystic, divine goddess the other day, and they were like kind of talking about doing like a similar thing. And again, just because somebody else is doing it doesn't mean that you can't do it, but I think just adding your own unique style and spin to it would be pretty cool. But ultimately, again, it's you know, like whatever you kind of decide. Because even then it's like, oh, you know, like, well, what if someone signs up for the Patreon and, you know, like if it's like, do you have to start getting into policing where it's like, oh, sorry, but like, if you're a male, then you're not allowed into the space, and like, oh, sorry, but like, it's like, and
I don't think that's more of what I would want to do. I might possibly like promoting like divine feminine, but you know, divine feminine, divine masculine is something that both men and women should integrate themselves. So maybe it's more targeted towards women, but I wouldn't
not exclusive.
have it like exclusive for women.
Yeah, I think that's a safer way to do it. I mean, if you literally are creating something that's specifically designed for women, then you just got to own it. But at the same time, if you know that your demographic is male and female, then having that inclusivity is important. But yeah, at the same time, like having it kind of like targeted towards more of that as well. So, I mean, even then, you know, you could have like a monthly Zoom call that could be about, you know, like honoring the divine feminine. But again, that's like with the invitation of it being like male and female. Or kind of like, you know, just like a divine masculine feminine integration sort of thing. So it's like not even one or the other. But yeah, again, you know, just kind of just kind of opening up to that brainstorming process right now, it's important to just kind of be able to focus in on like what type of value you would be most excited to be able to provide. And again, that can be through like the one-on-one sessions, Zoom readings, Zoom calls, tarot readings, private YouTube videos. And again, even just kind of like looking, again, just kind of like looking at what Ashley is doing with hers as well. Again, Ashley is going to have like discounts for some of her stuff when they sign up. The one-on-one coaching, like private, like exclusive meditations, access to online workshops. So I mean, yeah, there's a lot of potentials there. But yeah, I mean, like how do you like, most importantly, how do you feel about the idea of creating like kind of like a private community for the people that you're connecting with online? Like, is that something that you're feeling called to do?
Definitely something that I would be interested in, especially since like the new content that I've come out with, I've had a lot of like individual people like consistently commenting and liking and all my posts. And I've had a lot of people, like I even say in my bio that people are welcome to reach out to me, but I've like in the past week have had like somewhere around like 20 people like DM on Instagram. So I know that people are definitely like interested in building a community. So that is something that I would want to capitalize on for sure.
Yeah. And then again, you know, like even within like if people are like reaching out to you and stuff like that, like that could be something where you could kind of integrate that into, like I usually use the term, like, I don't know, like soul guidance or something like that, where it's just kind of like, hey, like if you just need someone to talk to, you know, like that could be a thing. And again, like that could be available through your Patreons. So again, it's kind of deciding like, you know, like, do you want to be able to kind of like partition your availability for people who are asking these one-on-one questions? Do you want to be able to provide a bit of that coaching approach? Because like even with Ashley, one of the things that I was recommending is using another app called Voxer. There's ones that are similar to this. I'm not sure if Ashley, were you going to use Voxer, or was there something else that you found?
There's a lot of other ones, but I think I was just going to use Voxer.
Voxer. Yeah. So
Voxer, VOXER.
Yeah, VOXER. And Voxer is basically just like, it's primarily like a voice messaging app, but what makes it useful is that it's just like an app that's separate from Instagram. So that way, like if people are reaching out to you for one-on-one consultation or something like that, they can send quick voice messages. And it literally is just something where it's like only people who have signed up for your Patreon at a higher level have access to that. So that could be something where, you know, it's like at like the $50 a month on Patreon, you get access, they have access to you for like voice chat and stuff like that. And like messaging throughout the day. And then maybe at, you know, like the 150 level or something, then within that they could do like a once a month, like 1 hour call. And within that call, it could also be like a tarot reading or a healing session where they could actually kind of like pick and choose what they want. So it's like once a month they get some kind of call with you. And again, and that could be something that where like, even for Ashley, like, you know, like that could be something where it's applicable, where it's like, opposed to saying once a month you get this specific type of session. Instead, it's like you get a session, but then you can kind of choose between whether it be a healing session, a tarot session, a shadow session, you know, a meditation session. So it's kind of like based on like what they need, and then they would communicate that ahead of time. But at the same time, really just, you know, setting your value on that, and not shying away from being able to, you know, set that as a higher tier, because that's also going to be doing you a favor, especially if you were to get like, you know, opposed to having like a lot of people signing up for it and being available at a lower tier, and then it just being like too much for you and everything like that.
Yeah, because I've had like a lot of people like reach out to me and ask for like a lot of advice, and like I love giving people advice, but it's also like I notice that I'm like messaging all these people back for so long, and it's really draining, and I'm like, oh, I'm doing all this like free labor, and I should be like, if I had a Patreon to be like, hey, if you want this advice, like I'm willing to give it to you, but this is like, I'm not just going to be giving like a bunch of people this for free at this level. Like it's pretty manageable because I don't have a super large following, but the more people follow me and the more people ask questions, like doing that is just like, I would spend all of my time doing this. And
You would.
don't have the energy.
No, that's and even still, again, like even with what it is that you're doing right now, it's great because you're building the relationships. And so that's where, like, when people do reach out to you, you just need to make sure that you're kind of creating the boundary where it's like, hey, you know, like, here's an answer to what you were saying. And again, you know, like, I'll be, you can let them know and be like, I'll be jumping on lives if you want to ask me questions there, but, you know, just know that here's the link to my Patreon. And through there, I provide like additional, you know, access and one-on-one coaching and stuff like that. So, because yeah, like, again, you want to be able to provide that value, and doing the lives is obviously a place where doing the, it's cool to see you having fun with the lives, because again, I've enjoyed doing the lives because it's very compartmentalized. And again, you know, for Ashley as well, the thing with the lives is, like, you know, you commit like an hour or two to like answering questions and paying attention on the lives. And then once it's over, you know? So it's just kind of like within that one container. But again, out of that, what you're doing is not only providing them like answers and stuff like that, but you're really just like deepening the relationship. So if someone's coming on there and they're asking a meaningful question and you give like a meaningful response that might be applicable to other people that are listening in, then again, you know, like it's not, you're not doing anything shady, but you're really just kind of giving them an example of your value. And just owning that and just being like, hey, you know, like, I'd love to be able to work with you guys further. You guys can find a link through my Patreon, through my profile. And yeah, you know, like, through there, you can get access to more of the premium one-on-one, and we can work deeper and everything like that. So yeah. So I mean, with the Patreon, again, you know, just kind of like looking at next steps when you get a chance, I would definitely just look at like creating an account and, figuring out what you would want to name it. Like, is your YouTube channel the same as, what's your YouTube channel name right now?
Same as TikTok. It's Danny Fox, right? With two X's. Right now, it's only, what's it called? It's only content from my music so far. So I'd probably still keep my music up there, but then add in other stuff, probably change the format of the page so it is more conducive to what I'm trying to promote, rather than just like me as like pop music artist.
Right. Which is still pretty cool too. Yeah. And then like, so for the Patreon, keeping the branding consistent would be important. So if Danny Fox is what you would want to do there, I would, again, just make it the same as your Instagram, the same as your Patreon, the same as your TikTok, all the way across the board as well. And then again, you know, you may even kind of want to be able to figure out like some kind of title for yourself. Like, Ashley, what was the title that you ended up landing on for yourself? It was like
for what, for Patreon?
Like for your Instagram, like there's like, you have a title next to your name. It's like white light shaman wizard healer something.
I do in my title, like where it's bolded, it's divine feminine coach, and within my bio it also includes moon priestess.
Right. So Danny, you might want to be able to kind of brainstorm. So it's like Danny : something, you know? Like mind heart alchemist or something like that, or something.
My the class I'm taking, it's like a priestess class, so I might include that in there, because the work I do is like, you know, connecting with the divine, so that even then, like divine healer, divine whatever. Yeah, I can find a title that suits me and suits the kind of
something that suits you, and something that maybe might be as cliche or tropey or something like that. Like, everyone's kind of got their own style to it, so just honoring what your style is. So cool. So I think when you got the time, definitely just kind of like start, you know, create your Patreon, and even if you want before that, just kind of like create your tiers. Again, you know, like just looking at what Ashley did for hers, you could have like a lower tier, and through that lower tier, you can just kind of offer minimum things such as like discounts for tarot readings or things like that. But then through like your second tier and up, that's where, you know, if you're creating like the Discord server, they get access to that. And then like the third tier and up is when they start getting like the additional, you know, one-on-one coaching access. So again, you could literally have it where like the third tier is like access to you through like Voxer, and then the fourth tier is access to you through Voxer plus like a one-on-one call once a month. And then you could have another one where it might be like, again, you know, literally it could be, you know, like $500 or more, and that could be like a call every week or something. And then just have that as only so many people can sign up for that as well. So it just kind of prevents you from taking on too many people at once. Yeah, and then just kind of maybe figuring out like a bit of a schedule where if there is, you know, private Zoom calls you want to host, or eventually you're like going live on YouTube for exclusive, you know, for like Q&A stuff there or something like that. That stuff can come later, but yeah, again, you know, like that's kind of the thing, is that like a lot of us, like we're kind of echoing similar formats. Like anything that I've been doing with Paradigm Shift, like please, if you see something there, like echo it in a way that like kind of fits your style. If it works, right? Because that's what we want. Like again, you know, like part of my intention, like, and I'm really excited to just be like helping you guys out with this, is like literally like over the next like 5 years, my intention is to be able to help like 100 conscious creators become like self-sustained in doing what they love. You know, like that's kind of like my, what's the word, like my spiritual service, so to speak. So I mean, yeah, if it can work for me, it can work for you guys. And again, and I think you guys will actually have like a little bit like I encourage you guys to kind of like have those like higher tier kind of pricing and stuff like that, because again, especially if you're working more with like the one-on-one stuff, like that's incredibly valuable. You know, if someone's like, whoa, what, like, hell yeah, I'll pay like, you know, $80 a month to be able to have like someone in my corner, like backing me up and like helping me get over like my mental obstacles and things like that. Like that's worth a lot to people, right? So yeah, I think just being able to own that and having those like high tier things. Cause again, you know, like you're making money and stuff like that, but again, it's also supporting yourself so that you can increase your global impact even more. Right. So yeah. So we're almost kind of at the top of the hour, but yeah, if Danny or Ashley, if you guys have any other things you just kind of feel like you want to brainstorm, and Danny, you know, like let me know when you kind of got like a rough version of your tiers, and I can, you know, review that if you want me to, and even still like with like the Discord server and stuff like that, if you would want to create a Discord server, which I would suggest creating a Discord server, because that's where you
only Discord server, just so like,
sorry, say it again.
See how many people are like always interacting in the chat, and I'm always like, oh wow, that's like that's a lot to manage. So I would definitely want to you know, have it rather like at least starting off as like a smaller community, so you understand how to manage it.
Yeah.
First.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, when starting off, and again, for Ashley as well, like you guys should literally have like maybe like 3 or 4 channels, you know, like one that's like your announcements, so that, and you're the only one that posts there. And then another one, well, the first one should be like a welcome one. Here's your guidelines, here's your rules. And then the next one would be announcements. And then one that could be like introductions, and then one that could just be like general chat type thing. And then over time, again, you can start opening up like the specific channels. But again, and those channels could also be relative to people that are supporting at higher tiers as well. So again, you know, like people can get into the chat by signing up onto the Patreon, but then they get access to more of the chat at the higher tiers as well. You could set it up in a way where, similar with mine, how like anybody can come into the public space. But it really depends on kind of like what you're trying to accomplish. Because again, like with ours, like anybody can join, and until I add them as a leading member, they only have access to the one channel. But again, you know, you might just want to just kind of like save yourself the headache and just make sure that the only people who are joining are people who are invested and who are Patreon supporters and things like that. So, which I think is fine.
Easier to manage people being respectful of each other. And also because like, like people are chatting 24/7. I'm not going to want to go through and like read the entire chat and make sure to monitor everybody. Yeah.
No, you don't want to do that. And again, that's where like, even for Ashley, one thing that I would encourage you to do soon is just kind of like write out like your guidelines for your Discord channel. Like that would be something that you can do. So I think maybe for you, Ashley, is just kind of like, you know, over the next like 3 or 4 days, get that Discord server ready to go. And then that's pretty much like the last piece of the puzzle between that and your website. And same with you, Danny, that could be something that you could get done pretty quick and just keep it simple and then have it ready to go. And then, and then you just, you know, you start getting the word out there and just start letting people know. And then you just kind of keep focusing on creating valuable content, and you just kind of continue this cycle where you're inviting people back. And again, it's going to help you guys level up too. So.
All right.
Cool. Sweet. All right. Do you guys kind of do you feel like you got some clarity on what your next steps are for what you guys are doing?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool, sweet. Anybody have any questions? I mean, we can wrap this up a couple minutes early. That's fine with me.
Yeah, I do have to go because I have another meeting in like 10 minutes.
Okay, cool. Okay, cool. And Ashley, any other questions? No? Okay, cool, sweet. Well, if you guys do want to just keep me updated, you can just message me through Instagram or Discord. That's totally fine. And yeah, no, I think that was good. So cool. Okay, all right. Okay, I'll stop the recording and wave bye to everybody listening to this in the future. Bye, everybody. We love you. Okay. All right. Okay.